Live from downtown Detroit, home of WDIV and Click on Detroit, Local 4 News at 11 starts now.
Good evening. We begin with police arresting a convicted child predator less than a year after he was paroled.
Robert Sohn was charged last Tuesday by the Livingston County prosecutor with second-degree criminal sexual conduct of a child under 13, the same crime that sent him to prison for 5 years. Jason Colthorpe spoke to the neighbors who helped alert police. Jason.
And it's a good thing they did too, Devin, because Robert Sohn had not registered as a sex offender as was part of his parole. In fact, he was befriending neighbors, including children, and none of them had any idea who he was. Convicted child predator Robert Sohn had been flying under the Livingston County Sheriff's radar all summer. He was staying in a camper on the back of his father's property on Pinckney Road in Marion Township. And police say he had been grooming kids at neighboring properties.
This guy came on a whim every time he heard commotion and learned all the patterns, learned whose kid was whose. One
family started seeing Sohn show up by cutting across their property on an ATV, and he wasn't always alone.
He would come around with one adolescent, then he'd come with another.
These neighbors who didn't want to be identified didn't notice anything strange until the night of August 15th, when what Sohn was saying to two boys was overheard by an adult at the party.
And certain things that he was saying to the kids are what triggered my friend to, his ears perked up and everything else, and he knew something was wrong.
After confronting him, they say Sohn left with a 9-year-old boy who had been acting strangely, and at one point said he just wanted to see his dad again. They called police, and well after midnight, officers made their way down to Sohn's camper, where the boy was found and Sohn arrested.
We're very thankful for a special friend of ours, because that's all we keep thinking is that if he wasn't on point listening to him, he would have come back, Rob would have come back again another day and had more of an opportunity, because it was more than obvious he was planning everything by, trying to develop friendships and shared hobbies.
Your best friend can be somebody they're not. Your neighbor can be somebody they're not. You just gotta stay safe.
Now, right now, those charges are only connected to what happened with the 11-year-old, not the 9-year-old, but police tell me this investigation is absolutely still open. I also talked to the next-door neighbor of Sohn, who says all summer long, she has seen several kids in and out of his camper, out there riding ATVs, kind of living it up all summer long out there. Devin.
Well, Jason, then was this an active search by police for Sohn?
The police tell me they were looking for him. In fact, they'd been to that property where his father lives several times to ask him if he knew where his son was. They said each time he said he did not, even though the campers were kind of in the back of the property. But that next door neighbor again says she has spoken to that man's father and says there's no way he didn't know what was going on or where he was. We'll have to wait and see how this all plays out. Devin.
All right, Jason.
Now to the latest developments along the Gulf Coast, where Hurricane Laura will make landfall in the next few hours as a powerful Category 4 hurricane.
This storm is expected to generate a catastrophic storm surge. Lake Charles, Louisiana, right in the center of the strike zone, and that's where Jay Gray is with the latest. Jay.
The leading edge of Laura battering the Gulf Coast, with the worst still on the way.
We are anticipating catastrophic damages.
From a Category 4 major hurricane with winds well over 100 miles an hour, more than a foot of rain in some areas, and what the National Hurricane Center calls an unsurvivable and potentially historic storm surge. At just 3 feet, the surge can be life-threatening. At 6 feet, the waves can smash through windows and doors. At 9 feet, entire neighborhoods can be swallowed. Laura's storm surge could crest at 20 feet.
To think that there would be a wall of water over 2 stories high coming on shore is very difficult for most to conceive, but that is what is going to happen.
And Laura will continue to wreak havoc as it pushes inland.
We could have 90-mile-per-hour wind gusts up to southern Arkansas, so we expect millions of people to be without power by Thursday evening, and then we have to deal with possibly even some rainfall and flooding in Tennessee and Kentucky.
This massive storm tonight just beginning its assault.
Yeah, unfortunately, this really just the beginning of what's going to be a very rough night here, as well as across much of southwest Louisiana and southeast Texas. This storm barreling through. We're going to see things really start to deteriorate here over the next several hours, perhaps at their worst just after the storm makes landfall and we get that leading edge of the eye wall here. That's expected sometime after midnight. Jay Gray, NBC News, Lake Charles, Louisiana.
All right, Jay, and let's get right to Ben Bailey with the very latest track of Hurricane Laura.
We've been watching this now for days. Ben, when do we expect this to make landfall?
Landfall is probably officially going to be just after 2 a.m., so we're looking at less than 3 hours from now, but it's a little bit closer than that for the strongest of the winds at the eye wall. That's not technically landfall, but you can see here on the radar that it is just about 41 miles to the eye wall from the coast. So those are the more powerful winds. We'll be seeing that at 15 miles an hour just here shortly after 1 a.m. So it's 150 mile per hour sustained winds. Look at those gusts. 185 miles per hour. It's moving to the north-northwest there at 15. So we're making landfall at 2 a.m. and then continuing inland as that storm continues to weaken. You heard Jay and all those officials talk about the storm surge as being some of the most powerful part of that storm. The gust right now at 55 at Lake Charles, but of course that's well off the coast, and we will see those gusts increase. That storm surge has been moving, that red area has been moved to 40 miles inland now. Of course, that 15 to 20-foot wall of water is going to be the biggest threat. We'll talk more about Laura and, of course, our chances of seeing severe weather here tomorrow. Just a few minutes. Guys?
All right, Ben, let's get now to breaking news just in from Pontiac, where police are on the scene of a shooting at an apartment complex.
Mara McDonald live at the scene with the latest. Mara.
Karen, we are at the Carriage Hill apartment complex. That's what you see behind me. Think Auburn and Opdyke roads, that general area. We just rolled up here and saw about 7 Oakland County squad cars that were blocking off Auburn Road in totality move out of here. But that leaves about 15 other squad cars back here in the Carriage Hill apartment complex. Now, the preliminary information that we are getting from police is that they responded to a quadruple shooting at this apartment complex. I don't have information right now on the extent of injuries, but stand by. I just got information that there are fatalities confirmed. How many in custody? We have a gunman in custody and we have fatalities confirmed. That is the latest from the sheriff's department. What sparked this? Unclear. Did it start inside an apartment or out here in the parking area? Unclear. Sheriff's deputies are rolling up here as we speak, but they've got a multiple shooting on their hands. And I mean, the way it looks, every Oakland County squad car in the county is out here. We're going to stay on the scene until we know more out here and get a few more details at this point. But we are live in Pontiac right now. Back to you.
Unfortunately, that was fatalities, plural. We will keep you apprised of what's happening in Pontiac. Meanwhile, it was night 3 of the Republican National Convention. It included, as perhaps you just saw, Vice President Mike Pence officially accepting the vice presidential nomination. Alice Barr has tonight's highlights.
In a setting rich with patriotic symbolism, Vice President Mike Pence officially accepting his party's nomination. Baltimore's Fort McHenry hosting night 3 of the Republican National Convention.
The site of the very battle that inspired the words of our national anthem. Those words have inspired this land of heroes in every generation since.
I pledge allegiance.
Tonight, a salute to the brave, honoring frontline workers and military veterans. President Trump joining the vice president, framing this election as a perilous fight for our country's future. Some of the addresses focusing on national security.
President Trump will keep America safe. President Trump will keep America prosperous. President Trump will keep America America.
Many zeroing in on security at home with a law and order pro-police message as protests ramp up again after the police shooting of a black man in Wisconsin.
From Seattle and Portland to Washington and New York, Democrat-run cities across this country are being overrun by violent mobs.
Speakers starkly warning of America's future under a Joe Biden administration.
An America where farmers are punished, jobs are destroyed, and taxes crush the middle class.
And appealing directly to black voters.
I know what racism looks like. I've seen it firsthand. In America,
It has no resemblance to President Trump.
Republicans making their case for President Trump as the man to lead the land of the free. In Washington, Alice Barr, Local 4.
All right, Allison, join us tomorrow night. Final night of the convention with President Trump officially accepting the Republican nomination from the South Lawn of the White House. Coverage again begins at 10 p.m.